Hello and welcome to Three Grumpy Old Men in St Kilda. Yep, we're grumpy, we're old and we're pissed off about life. And that's why we're sitting around here today.
Yeah.
This is Dick, this is Mick and I'm David. So here we are, folks. So what are you grumpy about today?
Well, to be frank, I have a very fluctuating degree of grumpiness. So
Okay.
This morning I was pretty grumpy, pretty angry about a lot of things, but I've sort of mellowed out in the afternoon.
Right.
Another wasted day trying to do not much. And so, but I do resent being called old. I don't resent you for calling me old. I resent the fact that I am old and that, you know, the affliction of time will be the affliction of opportunity.
But didn't you as a kid of 20 call somebody 30 or 40, oh, that old man?
Look,
we've
true.
all done that.
No, that's absolutely true. As I've grown up, so what is old, particularly in terms of attraction?
From very young age, you know, like I'd look up 14, 15, 16, I'd look at a 21, 22, 30-year-old and think they're ancient.
Yeah.
And wonder, am I ever going to live that old? Am I going to be that old, you know? Am I going to live that long?
And you think
and I'm now
that you're
66 and I worry about, you know, how much longer have I got to bloody live?
Yeah, and you're invincible when you're young as well. And but do you know what? I've loved getting old. I've loved the journey and all the stuff I've learnt along the way. I don't want to be young again.
So have you had cosmetic surgery?
I have several times. Yeah.
Right.
No, I haven't.
So
all right.
So at least you've resisted that temptation to manufacture youth.
No, I don't mind getting old. You know, I like the process. I like it, and how much you a little bit more you know along the way.
I don't know. Have a look. You know, it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
You can do it.
But I feel quite robust and quite.
It must be the metabolism, because like at 66, I've got a fantastic metabolism, and even though I've got this Dupuytren stuff going on, a few surgeries on my hand, my doctors reckon I've got another 30 years to live.
So you've got frailties in your lifestyle and in your body.
I wouldn't say they're frailties, I'd say they're major strengths.
Yeah,
You know?
well.
Like, I mean...
You are a spin doctor by profession. That's your life, is to spin. So...
Isn't it all of us sitting at this table, spin doctors?
Yeah, that's
Weren't
true.
you a politician, Dick?
Yes, I was a pretty unsuccessful politician. But, yeah, I mean, point of view is important.
Well, let's talk about a fitness level as you're getting older. You ride a push bike a lot. Where's your lycra today?
Thank Christ.
I thought that
Christ.
that in case people could see my genitals poking through the lycra, I thought that wasn't a good look.
No, it's not good.
No.
And talk about, you know, like grumpy old men. What about all the old men that dress up in lycra and go out riding on weekends and they hang around cafes with their, you know, guts hanging out? And
I'm more offended when they're riding down the road with their asses up and their unclean clothing, mate. It's quite the, you know, little patch, you know. It's disconcerting as you're driving down Beach Road.
Aren't you looking too closely? I've never noticed that.
You're on the bike, Dick.
I'm also in the car and on the footpath.
Yeah.
But look, I didn't get lycra for a long time because it looks so hideous.
Yeah. And
Next
as a
show.
bike rider, though, and I used to be a big bike rider, but I got hit by a car and broke both my elbows and gave up on it. And I rode everywhere, but no lycra. I'd ride to work every day and home and to the theatre and you name it. You know, like I used to ride everywhere. Never rode on footpaths. My grumpy old man biggest gripe is riding on footpaths.
If I see him going past, I'll put my elbow out, mate. Or say, what are you doing? There's 3 bloody bike paths out in Fitzroy Street. Get off the footpath.
The submarines.
Disgraceful.
On what level? That
We've gone to side with 2 failing democracies. One empire that's already died, you know, like 100 years ago, and more than 100 years ago, and the other one that's flailing in like a salmon in the air at the moment, you know.
But
So I've got a totally contrary view, but see if you can give a more articulate
but isn't
defence than that.
As we live in Asia, one would consider that having a good
colonial
relationship
power
with
like
our
France.
largest trading partner would be something that we'd like to keep you know, pretty consistent. And the fact that the French also own a fair bit of interest in the Pacific, and have done since we used to protest the Mururoa explosive and that. Tahiti, all these other places in French Caledonia. The French, we talk about the Indo-Pacific, the French have got as much influence in there as more than America, more than Britain, and probably as much as us, really, with our influence.
I think it's wrong the way the Australian government has handled it with the French, but as I read in the papers today or yesterday, of course they were going to react this way. You know, like they'd be, you know, the Australian government would have been surprised if they didn't. So, you know, like, let's see what happens in the coming months. Dick, what do you think? What's your thoughts?
Oh no, I'm quite comfortable with it.
What, Australia doing this?
Doing this, yeah.
Why?
Let's start off with one question. How much do we have to spend on defence? At the moment, we have to, you know, for our national sovereignty, we have to be able to either pretend to defend ourselves or be actually able to defend ourselves. We spend 2% on defence budget. That's very small by comparable standards.
Yep.
You know, tell me the libraries and the arts funding that you're going to stop doing to spend more to give us our sovereignty. As climate change has gone on, the approach of left-wing people to atomic energy has slightly moderated. Not completely. Most lefties are against.
Yep.
But I'm not. It's a long argument about how many people have died drilling for coal or in atomic stuff.
Of course.
So
but then there's Chernobyl,
it's a difficult.
And then there's, you know, like the Japanese.
But how many people died in Chernobyl? It was actually a tiny amount, and so the physics department at Melbourne Uni has a sort of like a study which shows that actually it's very scary, nuclear energy. No one denies that.
Yeah.
But when you do the body count, it's actually quite small, particularly, you know, compared to non-renewables like coal, where, you know, 500 people will die in
It's cleaner, but
China.
the risks are much higher should things stuff up accidentally.
No, that's not true. Like Chinese miners, speaking of China, die in great abundance. So look, it's a complicated thing. One thing that does shit me though is the French doing their suki suki la la. Like, it was a difficult, you'll hate this as an Adelaide boy, but you know, part of the problem with the subs was that they tried to solve 6, 7, 8 problems. You know, they tried to bring employment to Adelaide. They tried to be half pregnant on nuclear energy. They tried to do a whole lot of things, and it was sort of too hard. And I've been involved in.
But it was going nowhere. Though.
Who did the deal?
It was going nowhere.
Who did the deal originally? Was it Labor or Liberal?
It was Liberal.
Well, it went Liberal, Labor, Liberal.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's tarnished.
Everyone's had a bit on the French deal,
Yeah.
but not on this latest. And the real thing is AUKUS. I mean, that's what worries me most. For us to, like, you know, the mouse that roared down here in the Pacific, you know, like standing up with two, dying imperial nations, yeah.
It was a terrible look having the pale male stale blokes like us, the three oldies who couldn't remember each other's name, which
I think it's hysterical.
I agree, Tom.
So funny. But isn't you said about Adelaide, and to be quite honest, I left Adelaide a long time ago, but so it doesn't bother me at all. But isn't the plan that this is going to be done in Adelaide anyway? In the early
well, look,
discussions?
probably because
I think it is.
Yeah, it is. But like, I think you know the evidence seems to be that it was last year's technology.
It was. But how long has it taken to get this deal going and everything else? And how long? And how long have we had news about them being stuff-ups in the first place? This boat.
And I do feel sorry for the French, because the French have got atomic power in their subs, and they were said, look, politically we can't have an atomic industry in Adelaide.
But
which
the
is
USA
strange because
and the UK can. Fabulous.
But
and now we're going to put a new city next to Darwin up in north for the Americans to use. Well, we've got the Chinese owning the Darwin port. What?
But
this
the thing
doesn't make sense, and it's very dangerous for us.
In the centre of Australia, it's geologically benign, and it's a good place for that sort of industry. And the centre of Australia is where it came from, where it Ranger in Northern Territory or...
Yeah, so we deserve to take it back.
Well, it's just that we've got this hypocritical, difficult, complicated conversation about nuclear energy, which will never resolve. And then all of a sudden, boom, we've nuked our subs. Yeah. It's weird.
No, it is weird. And
I think the French were suki lalas.
No, it's let the whole Australian public down. The general feeling in Australia is anti-nuke. And our government's gone out without consultation with us or their previous business partners, without consultation with anyone, and just gone out and done this. And it's going to cause a major world shift of balance of power.
But all right, now we're talking about like that sort of part of the world. Now let's talk about the environment, because all of a sudden we're playing catch up. Like the Americans have said, come on, Australia, you've got to do it. The world is actually pointing the finger at Australia. And, like our Prime Minister is saying, but, we've got a plan. We don't have to tell the rest of the world what we're doing. What's your thoughts? What's your thought?
No, look, I don't trust the Liberals. I couldn't fire them.
Okay, so you're not a Liberal voter?
And I'm not. I have been a Labor voter, but generally speaking now I'm pretty far middle, and I prefer to see a change to the whole system. Break the Westminster system, if we can, go into a new phase. The word republic sort of irritates me because it's something that America and others have done. Yep. I mean, we really need to become us, But
hold on, what about the environment? The environment, which is like the world is saying we're
that's
in
our
a
issue
real
at the moment.
problem.
We've got a government that isn't prepared to commit to
well, they're going to have to.
Kyoto deadlines and the stuff that's done elsewhere, like Brussels, wherever, I'm not clued straight into this with, the official knowledge, but I do know that our Prime Minister, our people are saying, no, don't worry about it, we're cool, we'll sort it out. We've got a plan. We're not going to tell you the plan, but we've got a plan, and if you don't have a plan, you don't know what you're doing, but we got a plan. What is your plan? We're not telling you. No.
It's the rest of the world that they're not telling right now, because they don't really have a plan, but they're fighting towards it. Dick, what's your thoughts on the environment?
So for a dozen years I've taught climate change at uni.
Okay.
So I've been mystified why climate denialism has had such a big contingency in Australia.
Yep.
Now clearly it's because we have lots of coal, and that meant that lots of money was spent in massaging either backbench politicians or and jobs.
It's all about the jobs. It's all about
it is terrible. Like, forget the environment. You take, say, when Thatcher reformed the coal mines in England, the suffering, the generations of suffering that occurred to is not some. I'm a totally signed up greenie, but it's not something that I could walk away from without saying, this is a complicated issue and we've got to do something about it. We can't abandon
people suicided. People.
We can't abandon the coal communities.
No.
Yeah,
we can't abandon them, but we've got to give them something new to work with.
Well, that's hydrogen.
Correct.
So there are ways of dealing with it. They've got a lot of power infrastructure if they come up with renewables. But the big issue is, remember the last election, which Labor
just missed.
Stuffed up.
Much.
Oh no, but they stuffed up because they had an unpopular leader who'd been unpopular for a long time.
Yep.
Who's that?
Bill.
Shorten.
Oh, that's sad.
You know, and
I
so
like
he now jokes he lost the unlosable
I
election.
hear he doesn't like you very much.
He loves me.
So, so you know, this dropped opportunity. That was the climate change election. The Greens went and alienated every Queenslander by doing their self-righteous parade up the middle. Labor had an unpopular boss, and so there are individual explanations. Climate is 30 years. That's a climate time. Weather variability can be incredibly extreme, but look at the extremes that's happening in our Earth at the moment.
Oh, for sure.
You know, there's.
Do you think the solar
five
minimum?
times?
Do you think
five times the sea level has risen by 5 centimetres since industrialisation. It's getting warmer. It's getting more dangerous. And we've got to be absolutely on top of it. Otherwise,
cyclic?
we're bequeathing an Earth to the not grumpy old people
Is it
that's going to be buggered.
Is it cyclic? Is it Earth's natural cycle, or is it human intervention?
Okay, so it's both. So when you look at the weather patterns, they're complicated. There's weather variability. There's some cyclical things like the Indian Ocean dipolar, and the things to do with the Pacific. There's all sorts of cyclical stuff, and there's day and night, and there's climate change.
Yeah, I believe that,
overlaying it all.
Sorry, I believe the belt of fire, the ring of fire, or whatever it is under the ocean. That's been very, very particularly active over the last 10 years as well, spewing out a lot more CO2. Also, we're in the middle of a solar minimum.
That's not true.
Okay.
So when you look at
when did it stop having that?
No. When you look at the isotopes, this is boring. I can't explain it now.
Okay.
But there's 3 isotopes of carbon: carbon 12, carbon 13, carbon 14.
Mm-hmm.
Carbon 12 indicates human-generated climate change,
Yeah, okay.
and climate 12 has gone up,
Yep.
and carbon 14 and 13 have not. And the reason that is because we're taking a whole lot of dead ancient animals, sticking them in our cars and sending them up into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
It is not because of volcanoes. And who's that geologist from Melbourne Uni? He's wrong. Ian Plimer, he is wrong.
He's wrong, okay.
Wow.
No, well, I'll take that on record and I'll research it.
Okay, there is so much to talk about the environment. And we
Sorry,
keep on going.
I'm boring on the environment.
No.
And I'm doctrinaire.
All right, gentlemen. You're getting 60 seconds, and I'm timing it. The other 2 people aren't allowed to speak in that time. 60 seconds on what
This will be hard for me.
cheeses you off.
Yeah, I'm tempted to go Mick, but
All right, let's start with Dick.
okay. So what really, cheeses me off this week has been the Suki French. So there was a commercial arrangement, and they lost, and they did what diplomats never do, which is throw a total wobbly, and they took their bat and ball and went home. And what amazed me was how they seduced the whole European community to suddenly round in on poor little Australia. Now, you can argue that our decision wasn't the best one, but from the French point of view, this was a commercial relationship that there'd been a lot of disgruntlement with. They'd been slow. There's evidence that they were feather bedding their French factories, so there was going to be 5,000 lazy Frenchies sitting around on the Australian teat, sucking away. So I know it's easy to bag the French because they're seen as cheese-eating surrender monkeys, but bugger them. They shit me.
Mick.
Yeah, well, it's a continual story of St Kilda, and COVID hadn't helped with all these parklets. Parking. As poor departed Chris from the milk bar down the corner in Fitzroy Street.
Oliver
I interviewed
Shawn.
him several years ago, and his main thing was, Mick, parking. How am I supposed to sell anything when nobody can come and park here? I don't want to. I shouldn't do that.
No.
But I'm just saying.
You've done it.
Yeah.
You've done it.
I'm a bloody wog. I can. You know?
Shut up.
I'm a bloody wog. I can. So.
Sorry.
At the end of the day, parking. Now, the fact that all this is happening, we still have arguments over the bloody triangle. We've got a perfectly good Jackson Street car park that should go up several stories, and it should have gone up when the Pride Centre was built. But nothing's happened. I blame past and present mayors of Port Phillip, actually, for having this irresponsibility towards the driving public. And when you think that now hydrogen, electric and everything else are going to be the things that drive, like fuel cars, there isn't going to be an atmospheric problem. In fact, some of these cars are going to clean up the atmosphere as they go down the road. So
Time's up.
give the cars a go, get parking.
All right, mine. Masks. I'm sick to death of now everyone's walking around with a coffee cup, an empty coffee cup, with their mask down, and as if we don't know what they're doing, and it's just really pissing me off. Or the amount of people that just aren't wearing them anymore.
So you're going on a law and order?
Yes, yeah. I actually tell people off. I say, "Where's your mask?"
Fuck you, grumpy.
If they've got their mask down and they're talking on the phone, I went, "You can still talk with your mask up, and it's your saliva that's coming out." I tell people all the time. So I really am very, very funny about masks, and I'm not even doing 60 seconds. Cut. Moving on.
Dick? No, Dick.
Let's
Hold
go.
on, Dick has to give his...
Dickhead of the week. Who would you nominate as a dickhead of the week? Who would you nominate?
Whoever's been organising these
They're-
Coles fluoro protests. Yeah. Whoever those dudes are, the German dudes and all their local
What are you
bunnies.
saying, Coles? What?
What are you talking about, Mick?
The fluoro vests. Most of the people that are in that thousands
Oh,
of
yeah,
people,
you got the
right?
fluoro vests.
Yeah, they weren't CFMEU vests. They were people that were from. They're either diversionaries, they're either anti-vaxxers, they're lockdown freaks. They've gone out to Coles or the hardware store they're open, gone out and got the fluoros after seeing them sit down the day before and not get hassled. They thought, yeah, that's how we get in, and they've all just gone in like rats. And you can see them swinging down. One bloke sitting on the top of a car with a mask on, and he's swinging metal. It looked like bolts in a sock. Like, like these are not reasonable human beings.
No,
they're off their.
It is unfortunately a fairly unanimous choice on Dickhead of the Week.
Yep.
Yeah.
It has to be.
But,
I think we're appalled by it actually. And so many friends from, because I've lived in Sydney a few times and Adelaide, because I'm originally from there, are all saying it must be horrible living there. And I'm seeing it on TV. It's not affecting me at all. I'm nowhere near those poor people that would have been on Westgate Bridge yesterday in their
Or the
cars.
coppers.
In their cars.
Yeah,
The coppers and everyone else.
And the poor police, that's not what the police are really here for.
Look, I've got to tell you, police have never been my friend in life, but I see this as bloody terrible. Bloody terrible. And they're putting their
But
lives...
don't we sound like conservative, boring old farts?
No, we sound like reasonable, rational human beings, Dick.
Exactly. You don't have to disagree with everything all the time. You don't have to be the grumpy old man in a lot of cases, but we all are, and we've got the. Do you know what? We've got the right to be, because we're grumpy old men.
I earned this face. I earned it.
Well, it's sort of true, and I mean it's hormonally true. As we age, we lose testosterone.
Yep.
And
Speak for yourself.
And
you can say, oh, look at those bloody young people, making a fool of themselves. I wouldn't have done that. Well, I did all of that. I was such a naughty boy as a teenager, early 20s growing up. A rebel with a lot of causes of having too much fun. It's just what comes around goes around, time, generation after generation.
well, a lot of my peers are saying, these demonstrations are different.
Well, they are. They're not committed.
But violence was an important part
anti-war.
of a demonstration. Militancy
with the unions is a part of their whole thing. being a militant union, to march as a militant union is their right, and that's what they do. They don't. They go to a park, they have a speech, then they all go home. They don't do this shit.
But I think we're fooling ourselves in that when you look back, you often do so through rose-coloured glasses. But, you know, violence is always the only way you're going to get media. And in fact, I was part of the demonstration that locked Fraser in the Dunnies at the Alex Theatre. And eventually a lot of us ended up in the union movement or places like that. And then we went and met with Fraser, and a documentary is being made about that.
Fabulous.
But it actually wasn't that violent. You know, the cameras, there was about 2 broken windows and the cameras went straight
Of course they would have, yeah.
Mate,
But,
a bunch of half-stoned hippies attacking someone, back in those days, it wasn't really something to get worried about.
No, I disagree. There was during the Maoists. Speak to the Maoists. They were beaten up by the cops, and they beat up cops. The Trots were. You know, these are now.
Hey, from my community, the LGBTIQ community, Mardi Gras, that parade that's a celebration of the community in Sydney.
That was violent.
The first one was violent. They were beaten and thrown into jail.
So the rose-coloured glasses worries me about old farts. That we do look back and say we were different and better.
No,
but I don't think we were as bad as these turds.
No.
We had, I think there were actually higher principles to worry about.
I agree. But they would say they've got higher principles. They say they're freedom
untested,
fighters.
what do they say? Experimental vaccines. mRNA's been 60 years in the making. mRNA's, through this COVID pandemic, has forced the world...
Has matured.
Industries, technology scientists to actually crack the nut finally after 60 years and go, messenger RNA, that's the one. We can, let's do it. It's not experimental. This has been a long time in the making.
Well, and we have been a long time in the making collectively. Imagine how old we are if we put all our ages together.
I think
we're over 180, 90.
3 times 70.
Going to
3 times 70.
Yeah, okay. Well,
that's 210 years.
We're under that. I'm 66.
So we've got so many more stories to tell you, people. That's a wrap for today. Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Davey.
And we'll be back another day. Yep, we're going to make you suffer this more time.
Oh, yes.